ignored the safety rules. But with regard to this particular line, I'm not married to it. I can try to revisit this issue with the court when we have relevant witnesses on the witness stand.
Your Honor, the court had the ability to reserve.
So all I'm looking at is this line, okay?
Correct.
Both of you, and I'm going to not let it in.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. It looks like there were some motions that came in about
Okay, next.
50 minutes ago.
Next is,
I'm not
this
sure
one's
what
out by
happened.
Stipulation. Let me see.
But we are
Next is
live.
Page 81. A portion of that is out by stipulation, but I believe the next is page 81.
Yes.
The top portion of that is out by stipulation, I believe, but then the lower part of page 81 is still subject to disagreement.
Let me just refresh my memory on what it is.
So we resumed about at 1 p.m. I thought we'd have a longer lunch break.
Some of this contains his.
We'll catch up.
Wait a minute, let me. I guess the top part of it is directly related to what he's talking about at the beginning, which the court admitted.
Oh,
So my concern is I don't think that if we take out, and on Saturday, my daughter was going to be in the movie, we had a little part for her, and this top, so I want to point out that here at the bottom of page 81, Mr. Baldwin says, well, let me ask you this. Originally, this is very complicated. I mean, none of this compared to what happened to them, but my wife and my whole family was here. They weren't, but his daughter was going to be in the movie. So again, this goes to the opening arguments, the continuing defense that we are going to hear throughout the course of this trial. Mr. Baldwin, at this point in time, knows that someone's in the hospital and another person has been taken away on a helicopter, is critically injured, and what he is concerned about during the interview is what's happening to his family and whether or not his family is going to come and visit him. So he's actually taking a moment in the interview with the detective to talk about, this is complicated because my family's supposed to come.
Can you all hear me now?
All right, thank you.
Let me know if you can hear me in the chat.
So, Your Honor, the court has already ruled admissible the previous portion of this. And again, I think when the court is looking at balancing, the court can also determine how much of this to permit in. It is cumulative of what the state already has used the earlier statements to reference, which would be his supposed state of mind after the fact. I don't know how much we need to then, continue to allow in all of the rest of this over and over. And certainly, again, him wanting to have his family there with him is not shocking after something like this. It is certainly a very difficult time. But again, as the court is looking at the balancing, one of those things that the court will balance is the cumulative nature of what is being offered. The court has already ruled admissible the previous statements, and we would ask that the court not allow additional statements related to that at this time based on the limited probative value of the testimony or evidence.
All right, I don't think this is of much consequence. I think that the part I ruled on earlier went to rebut the information about his coloring and everything else like that. Granted, there was a lapse in time, so that can be addressed in questioning. But the fact that his daughter was going to be in the movie and he's mentioning that, I don't think that, and she was so excited to come, I don't think that's helpful. He's just describing really his kids. That's not coming in.
Understood. Is the next one that on page 83? Is that what you have?
Yes. And the first, I think, 5 lines are out by stipulation, and then we're just dealing with then 6.
Right. So 6 through 14, Certainly, the top part is an explanation of his comments at the beginning that the court has ruled are admissible. I certainly can forfeit. I told the producers I would stay tomorrow in case anybody else, their insurance investigators, their lawyers want to talk to me. I don't have too much heartburn over letting that go, but I do think that the fact that there are two people who've been taken away to the hospital, and Mr. Baldwin is upset because his wife wants to cancel her trip, again goes directly to the defense of this man was devastated.
I don't agree.
Go ahead.
So, Your Honor, first, the state, this was already part of the stipulation, was through page 83, line 5. So I won't argue that since the state had already stipulated to that earlier. With respect to lines 6 through 14, much of what is being relayed here is actually his wife's statements, about what she thought about, the weird energy or whether or not she wanted to come down. And so I think, again, the state has already is already going to be permitted to introduce those other statements related to his state of mind. This has very minimal probative value, particularly considering the court's ruling a moment ago, and we would ask that the court exclude this, particularly, again, considering the fact that a lot of this is about his wife and her thoughts as well. And it's not sufficiently probative.
Yeah, I don't think it's very relevant. I think, and the relevancy goes to the rebuttal of how he was feeling. I think that the pages 4 and 5 directly relate to that, but I don't think this does, so I'm not going to redact it. Last page.
There is further down on the same page. I believe it starts at line 22 of page 83 and then continues on into page 84, line 8.
So, Mr. Baldwin has critically injured someone, and what he's saying to the detective, and keep in mind, Your Honor, Mr. Baldwin was going to stay and complete originally he was going to be in New Mexico to complete the filming until I think close to the end of October. And he is already making plans to return home to New York, even though he's critically injured two people.
Oh, come
It
on.
it is the exact opposite of what the defense is going to argue, which is this was devastating to him. This devastating. I think there's even phrases in this interview where he says, "I'm devastated," or maybe it's in November 3rd. So this is completely contradictory to other statements that he makes where he says, "I'm devastated." Two people are in the hospital and he doesn't even want to stay and make sure they're okay.
I'm sorry. She just argued that it was
Offered to
suspicious that
stay,
he
and that's
stayed
throughout this
and invited
transcript.
his family.
It even says it further down on this same page. He says, "Unless you tell me not to, or if you tell me to come back in, I'll do whatever it is that you want." He's making himself completely available, but not shockingly, his wife wants him home. He is a father.
The prosecutor has a problem with whatever he does.
It's going to be redacted. All right.
That's
Next.
ridiculous.
The next one is out by stipulation, which is on page 85.
I think that's it. Could it be?
That
Yes,
may be it on this one. I will note,
You
Your Honor.
stipulated to, okay, what?
Yes. There were other portions within here that we had found that were related to the blank situation. I understand the court's ruling. If the court is willing to consider as part of its gatekeeping function, limiting the amount of that.
Too late.
Just the amount.
Too
I
late.
understand.
That's what happens when you do
understand,
2 days before. Okay, let's go.
Just in terms of, I know that we've got one more statement to try to tackle. So now that the court has ruled on the redactions, because these are the defense requests, I'm expecting the defense to do the redactions and provide them to me quickly because this is Hancock, and Hancock's gonna take the witness stand as soon as possible.
That is our intention.
Well, you're finished, so you're gonna do,
No, I have.
oh, that's right, okay, I
five or
apologize.
so 10 minutes max.
Okay, and then you're gonna do the redirect. So while they're doing that, go ahead and provide a copy with the redactions that I've ruled should
Yes,
be
ma'am.
redacted, which were minimal. Okay,
Yes, Judge.
what's next?
There is the second statement. Is this
So
yours?
the,
Is this your copy?
the second statement, this is a statement that takes place on
I hope you
November-
got that. Do you need any clarification? Because I don't want this going south when Hancock's on the stand. Do you want me to
Yes.
repeat it?
I think we have it from the
Okay.
transcript, Ron.
Hmm?
I think we have it from the transcript.
No, my rulings. So,
Yes, just because
okay.
we have the real time.
All right,
on it, so
okay.
we'll
Okay,
see.
what's next? I said the jury comes back at 2. They have 1 minute before I call back
Yes.
the jury.
Yes,
Otherwise,
Your
you're going to abandon these.
Yes, Your Honor, we'll be quick.
So if we look at this part at the bottom of page 1 and the top of page 2,
This is what I'm going to do because we're running out of time. I'm going to make a ruling. These were given to, your intended redactions were given 2 days before. And so far, the only thing I've heard that was a surprise was the testimony of his knowledge of guns. So let's see. Well, I mean, everybody got a point somewhere. I don't find that, I'm going to redact that. I don't find that's relevant. It's just in passing, really. And he's talking about other people.
well, if I can,
Sure.
Your Honor, I just
Yeah.
want to talk about it in a little bit more context. So what's happening here is Detective Hancock and Mr. Baldwin are talking about Ms. Gutierrez and her lawyers. Ms. Gutierrez is obviously her conduct is being discussed extensively. Mr. Baldwin says, but it's her lawyer saying that on her behalf. So if we're going to redact the bottom portion, then honestly, I think that we need to redact the part where he says it's her lawyer saying that on her behalf. I mean, I think if we redact the part about the lawyers, we redact everything.
That's fine. It does take it out of like nowhere context. Okay, yeah, I'll tell you what I'm thinking, and then if you really want to argue it. All right, page 15.
Yes, sir.
I don't find this relevant. About,
Okay, Pete, I'm sorry, let me catch up to you.
sure.
15.
Yeah.
So this is relevant because what Mr. Baldwin is talking about right here to Hancock is his intention to sit for a public interview, and that public interview turns out to be with George Stephanopoulos. It was that interview that led to the accidental discharge testing and all kinds of stuff. Again, Judge, it's the defendant's own statement. He knew he had a right to counsel.
All right, I'll let 1 through 6 in, but this thing about the Kennedy Center is not coming in. 1 through 6 on page 15.
1 through 6 comes in, the rest of it's out. Understood.
Page 18. Tell me why this is relevant or not relevant or relevant. Ms. Morrissey.
Okay, let me just,
She's so disorganized. I liked her so much better yesterday. Now I'm seeing she's kind of, I don't know.
Sure, so the top part is him saying to Detective Hancock, you don't know anything about my business. You don't know anything about my business. You're in law enforcement. You're the person who, when they do something wrong, you're the last person they want to see. You live a very, very difficult but ultimately very narrow life. I believe, hang on, let me finish it a little bit. Well, it all goes, I think we've got like three or four pages, so I think it all kind of goes together. Hang on just a second.
To those of you saying this could have been discussed after court today,
Okay,
yes, it
so
could have.
This part, I mean, the part at the bottom of 18, it puts in context the part at the top of 19, and this goes directly to Mr. Baldwin's motivation to lie about pulling the trigger of the gun. I'm 63 years old with 6 kids. I can't rely on luck anymore. He's talking about his career and that he can't rely on luck anymore. This goes exactly to his motivation not to tell the truth. Sorry.
Can we approach briefly?
I'm sure they're going to make a big deal of him walking out, but this is a little bit infuriating. So this is what happened. We were told that we were going to come back at 2 p.m. I did not realize, and Larry did not realize, that this would be televised. Eventually we realized it, so I came on a little bit early. And I wanted to do a breakdown for you all. I was trying to catch up, but it appears that what's happening is Morrissey is very unhappy with the way that Spira was completely obliterating her last witness. And she and the state have decided to put forth all of these, challenges to the judge. I don't know if these are official motions or what's going on here, but she has a problem with a lot of things that the defense is doing, and a lot of things she wants to say. So she seems to have a problem both with the fact that Alec Baldwin, his family was apparently supposed to come to New Mexico the day after the shooting occurred. It was, pre-planned that way. And then he wanted Hilaria to be convinced, Hilaria didn't want to come after the shooting occurred. His daughter was going to play a bit part in the movie. And then he had somebody, try to convince Hilaria basically to come. And so that was recorded in his police interview. And this is before he knows that Helena Hutchins has died. So he's telling his wife, no, please come. I really want you to be here. We'll have a nice time. Morrissey has a problem with that, but then she also has a problem with him going home to New York. So basically, she villainizes everything that he does. And I don't like Baldwin, but I think this is a little ridiculous. She wants to bring in all the stuff that's relevant.
I don't think this information is
Good question.
that helpful one way or the other, but I'm going to let it in because of the lateness of your redactions. So because it's 2:00 now, and so we're going to go. All right.
I understand. May I just briefly just be heard on that point?
No,
No, you may not.
get your redactions in earlier.
Shoot.
Understood here.
And that includes 20 minutes.
Everything I quit on is coming in.
Summer
You
is
understand?
not
That
having a
page
lot of
forward
patience here.
Yes,
So everything subsequent to.
and that page.
okay.
Look, I may think that Alec Baldwin has responsibility for Helena Hutchins' death, but, what happened was incredibly traumatizing. He didn't mean to kill her, obviously. And so how are you going to react when something like that happens? Are you going to try and keep your plans? Are you going to try and go be with your family? I mean, none of us knows how we would react if we were in his shoes. And I think that what matters the most here is the facts of the case and whether he's guilty of manslaughter or not. How he responded to the situation has really nothing to do whatsoever with the crime as charged. It's his behavior leading up to the incident that matters. And the state has done this numerous times. They wanted to bring in things that happened after the shooting, and I just don't think it's relevant. So I'm starting to kind of switch sides here, weirdly. I mean, I'm not saying I want him to be acquitted, but the state is really overreaching, and I think it's inappropriate. But at least the judge is, keeping them on lock. Why is it so bad that he went home? What was he supposed to do? I mean, she was shot. So anything you do at that point is going to make you look bad. I don't feel bad for him really, but I do pity him a little. I think we still are on Marissa Popple, correct? We are not finished with her yet.
Gotcha. Did you ask for us to come up?
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chandler Remington. I'm Larry's girlfriend. We are here in New Mexico. He's in the courtroom, and I'm streaming the trial today. And tonight he's going to come back and do a recap for you and tell you everything that happened in court today from his perspective. But until then, for the afternoon, you have me. So you might get a glimpse of Larry in the gallery. I presume he's in court by now. He just walked back from lunch. And we are resuming testimony. I think we are on recross for the state's witness, Marissa Popple, and we will see if the state can rehabilitate her. But Spyro finally got into his groove, and he completely obliterated this witness. He made her look like a liar. He made her look inept, incompetent, as though she had things to hide. And because she is a representative for the state, because she works for the state police as a criminologist, that is not good. That is no bueno. This is not going to work out very well for the state. And I think that they were very unhappy with how effective his questioning was, which is why they brought in all these motions, all these problems, and they wanted to resolve it at lunch. It's possible that those things were going to come up with an afternoon witness. I'm not sure. But I think the state is possibly stalling. So I want to know Larry's opinion on this. But right now, hit the like button. Please subscribe. And thank you so much for being here and watching with us.
All right, you may be seated. Go ahead.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Spyro.
Good afternoon. You had seen when you were testifying earlier, Mr. Baldwin in court today, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this is the first time that you've seen him since, I believe, since the day that the incident occurred?
Correct.
And of course, you see him here as a defendant in a courtroom wearing a suit jacket. He wasn't dressed like that on the scene, right?
Right.
He was Harlan Rust, and he had his actor costume on, right?
Yes.
And you actually took those clothes and tested them for blood, like you said before, right?
I did.
And he was shaking as you did that, was he not?
He seemed upset as I did that.
And of course, you remember that, right?
Yes.
And the lapel that you've reviewed has refreshed your memory.
Correct.
And you know that he received a phone call from his friend Joel, the director who had been shot, and you used that information to then send officers to the hospital to retrieve the bullet, correct?
I believe we already had deputies at the hospital at that time.
But he told you that and told you that that would be something that he wanted you to do, right?
He indicated it was something he wanted law enforcement to do, but we were already making the necessary, we were already sending a deputy to the hospital to retrieve that.
And he told you that he pulled the gun out, he turned, and he just cocked the gun, right?
He did state that, yes.
He didn't say he pulled the trigger, right?
I don't recall him saying that.
And you never tested the hammer of that gun for DNA, did you?
I do not know the FBI lab's process for processing a firearm for DNA.
But because he told you that, and I'm putting up A10, defense exhibit, that's why you knew that the document that had fallen near Miss Hutchins that says macro on hammer as thumb cocks it was so important. Isn't that right?
There was a paper inside of the church that indicated a firearm was being used. So I photographed it. We had paperwork that was later collected out of Miss Hutchins's side bag that was also additional script. And that was collected because it was part of her bag, part of her personal property.
And you see the name Helena on top, right?
Yes, this is what was taken out of her bag.
And what was at the floor, A3, Russ Colt cocked quietly now. Did I read that right?
Yes.
And you and your fellow officers discussed this and said, this is important. It confirms what he told us, didn't you?
I believe that I stated it was important because it was a script that involved a firearm inside the church where a shooting had occurred.
And after this point in time, eventually, you all sent that firearm off, not to have the firearm tested, its hammer for DNA, but rather for it to end up being destroyed in the testing or broken in the testing, if you prefer.
The firearm was sent for DNA, and additional testing was not conducted until later.
We were talking also, to move away from the firearm for a second, about how the lethal round got on set, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Baldwin, you actually told him that you would figure it out. You gave him that assurance. You said, I get it. I know that there was a live round, wasn't supposed to be on set. We law enforcement are going to find that out, didn't you?
I believe the words that I used was, that's why we're here. We're here to try and figure out what happened.
And one of your fellow officers sort of came over the top of you and sort of confirmed to him, don't worry, we're going to find out.
Objection to whatever a fellow officer-
Effect on listener? What? One word, but objection. Yes, what is it?
Objection to hearsay, the officer isn't here, who he's speaking of.
Respond.
It's not for the truth of the matter asserted that it was heard.
Okay. Well, did you lay the foundation for that? Did you ask her what she did because of that?
Not yet, I can't.
Okay.
And after
Foundation for effect on listener.
after what you said and what you heard from your fellow officer, it is true, as you testified previously, that you did go out to seek the source of that lethal round, right?
Please rephrase your question as to the word seek.
Sure. After you said what you said and the officer said what he said, is it not the case that you made it a priority to try to find the source of the lethal ammunition, correct?
Our priority was to find the facts of what had happened in this situation.
And one of the steps that you took that we talked about, by searching the truck, by going to Seth Kenny, by getting the PDQ, one of the things you then did was you did seek out and try to find the source of the lethal ammunition, correct?
Yes.
And as you were doing that, you continued to work with Corporal Hancock, right?
Yes.
You would see her and the prosecutors often, right?
I would see Corporal Hancock more often.
And you testified previously about the search for the lethal ammunition at the trial of the armorer, correct?
Yes.
And a question came up at that trial of this issue of, did Seth Kenny really provide the ammunition to Seth or not, right?
Yes, I believe that came up.
Okay. And eventually there was a verdict in that case, right?
Yes.
And a Good Samaritan walked into the police station and gave you the lethal ammunition, didn't they?
After the Hannah Gutierrez trial, there was an individual that came to the police station and stated they had ammunition.
And they turned in the ammunition
Yes.
and they gave it to you, right?
Yes.
And they told you that this was the ammunition that ended up with Seth Kenny that killed Miss Hutchins, right?
I do not recall all of their statements.
Who did you tell about that?
During that conversation, my Lieutenant Brian Brandel, was with me, and Detective Hancock was aware of that individual, that he had come to the sheriff's office.
And you never vouchered that and turned it over to the defense, did you?
It was a doc information situation,
I don't know what that means. Can you just explain it to me?
meaning that I was instructed by my lieutenant to create a doc info report on it.
And I mean, what does that mean?
Means we're documenting information that this individual came and gave this ammunition to us.
Okay, but you didn't, I mean, he told you it had to do with the Rush shooting, correct?
Yes,
And he told you actually that he was a police officer in a neighboring county, right?
I believe he said he was a retired police officer. Yes.
And he told you you all had been duped by Seth Kenny, didn't he?
No,
In words and substance, didn't he?
I don't recall that. No.
Okay. And he said to you, I'm willing to fill out a witness statement, right?
No, I don't recall that.
He told you that the rounds came from a green ammo can, didn't he?
have to object to hearsay.
Sustain.
Did you take the rounds that were provided to you? By the way, they were Starline brass, nickel primer, live, weren't they?
I don't recall.
You don't recall? Really?
That is what I said.
She looks so dishonest. I want to know more about Seth Kenny now. That's one of my blind spots here.
Well, it's information acted upon is going to be my response. But he told you the reason that he was coming in is because he didn't trust law enforcement on this case.
Well, you know what? She's going to object to hearsay, and you're going to say effect on listener.
Okay.
Well, you're going to have to lay your foundation better. You
Yeah.
are.
So
This is the defense, yes.
let me ask this question. How come law enforcement didn't voucher this with the rest of the evidence in the Rust case?
I'm not sure what you mean by the word voucher.
How come you didn't inventory it and put it with all the rest of the evidence in the Rust case?
I was instructed to put this in as a doc information case, which I did, and it is under that case number.
You buried it.
No,
Your lieutenant?
there is a supplemental report on it, and that was placed into evidence.
Did you ever turn that over to the defense?
Did she?
I have not turned over anything to the defense. My information goes through the sheriff's office.
Are you aware of whether the sheriff's office ever informed the defense that a Good Samaritan came in and turned in this ammunition?
I do not know.
Wouldn't it have
When
been
the
her
defense
job?
came to view the Starline brass, nickel primer, live ammunition with you, you didn't show them this, did you?
I did not have an evidence viewing with the defense. That was my coworker.
Your coworker didn't show this to the defense, correct?
I do not know.
So
Do you
she's
have any reason to believe your coworker showed this to the
passing the
defense?
buck, it seems.
Given that it wasn't put in the same inventory as the Rust case?
No.
I don't like her.
Did you or anyone from the sheriff's office ever tell the armorer or her lawyers that a Good Samaritan came in after the verdict and gave you this information?
I do not know.
This isn't good for them. Not good for the state at all.
But you do agree he did tell you that Seth said this was the evidence from the shooting, correct?
I don't recall what he stated, what someone else stated.
She reminds me of Dennis Fung.
And you told him he didn't have to write a witness statement. Law enforcement was going to type up a report on it today, right?
I never stated any such thing about a witness statement.
He offered to provide a written witness statement so that it was clear. Did he not?
I do not recall that happening.
Okay. Did you give him assurances that you would type up a report on it?
I don't recall providing assurances to him.
Did you tell him that you would write up a report on it?
I don't recall doing that either.
Do you deny it?
No.
So when you testified earlier that you never found the ammunition that killed Miss Hutchins, that wasn't true either, was it?
Can you rephrase the way you stated that?
Sure. As you sit here today, having had a Good Samaritan turn in these 45 rounds into the precinct, right?
If that's what you're discussing, yeah.
Yeah. You don't know whether or not you have in your possession the live rounds that killed Miss Hutchins, do you?
The live round that killed Miss Hutchins has been fired. Are you asking me about a connection between those live rounds and other ones?
I'm asking you, as we've talked about at great length, whether or not you withdraw it. I'm asking you, isn't it the case that law enforcement likely has the matching rounds to the ammunition that killed Miss Hutchins?
I do not know.
And you do not know because you made a doc report about this and did not put it with the rest of the rust evidence, correct?
Those rounds were not placed with the rest of the rust evidence, correct?
Nor were they sent to the FBI for testing with the rust evidence, were they?
No, they were not.
The bullet that killed Elena Hutchins was extracted from Joel Souza's body. It hit her and then him, and they do have it to answer a question in the chat.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Damn.
Redirect.
Oh, that was brutal. But cops lie on the stand, don't they? Even criminologists. Criminologists are cops. 100%. Like Dennis Fung in the OJ case. She deserved to be grilled on all of that.
Ms. Poplar, are you a detective?
No, I am not.
Did you interview any of the witnesses in this case?
No, I did not.
You didn't interview Mr. Baldwin?
No,
You didn't interview Ms. Gutierrez?
no.
Mr. Spiro was asking you about the Good Samaritan who arrived at the sheriff's department after the Gutierrez trial. Can you tell the members of the jury when the Gutierrez trial was?
I don't recall exactly. I believe it was back in April.
Would
Larry
you
was
take
surprised
into
it came in.
February, beginning of March?
Yes, that sounds more accurate.
Okay. Do you recall the Good Samaritan's name?
I do not.
Would you recognize it if I said it to you?
Yes.
Troy Teskey.
Yes, that was his name.
Are you aware that Troy Teskey is a close friend of Hannah Gutierrez Reed's father?
No, I did not know that.
Are you aware that Troy Teskey had his own motivations for wanting to place blame on Seth Kinney to help Hannah Gutierrez?
Objection, leading, objection, irrelevant.
Yep.
Overruled, overruled.
Really?
Please answer.
No, I had no knowledge of that.
She's testifying. Morrissey's testifying. I don't know if this helps. Sorry.
Now, to be clear, is Mr. Baldwin charged with involuntary manslaughter for bringing live rounds on the movie set?
No.
Is Mr. Baldwin charged with involuntary manslaughter for loading a live round into the gun?
No.
Has a person already been tried and convicted for those things?
Yes.
To try to clarify some points, Starline Brass, is that a brand of ammunition?
Yes, it is.
Is it a brand of ammunition or a casing?
It is a casing.
Okay.
I don't see her rehabilitating this
And-
witness at all.
The live rounds from the set of rust
I don't think she
had
can.
nickel primers, right?
Yes.
Objection, leading, every question.
She's nitpicking facts
Overruled.
that have nothing to do with the witness's credibility. The damage is done. It can't be undone.
So, let me ask you this. When you went to PDQ to conduct your search, because you're not the detective, do you remember whether you had any surveillance video or not?
I don't remember.
So, with regard to Mr. Kinney, Prior to the search of PDQ, did Mr. Kinney actually bring his own live ammunition to the police station?
Yes.
So before you ever executed a search warrant, he went to the police station and said, I want to give you a sample of my live ammunition.
Yes.
Wait, she moved the chart in front of the defense
And
table?
you took that and you sent it to the FBI, right?
Correct.
Oh, she did. Damn.
Now, with regard to ammunition,
Not a good look.
characteristics of some of this ammunition is it says Starline brass on the top, right? And when I say it says Starline brass, describe to the jurors what the emblem is that we see.
It is a star, an arching line, and then another star.
The live ammunition that was taken from PDQ, was it all Starline brass?
No.
Was it all nickel primers?
No.
Now, in addition to the stamp on the top of the casing and the color of the primer, does ammunition have different shaped projectiles?
Yes.
And when we're talking about the projectile, we're talking about, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the nose of the bullet. So what actually gets projected out the barrel of the gun.
Oh, please. I'm showing you what's been previously admitted. It's State's Exhibit 26. Remind us, which are the live rounds? The suspected live rounds, sorry, we'll get there.
The ones to the right,
And what are the ones on the left?
they are dummy rounds.
Is there a different shape to the tip of the projectile?
Yes.
Tell us what the difference is.
So the live rounds. Okay. So the live rounds have a flattened surface to them, whereas our dummy rounds come to a further point. Sorry, I was trying to draw a line. Almost like a curvature to a better point.
At my request, prior to the Gutierrez trial, did you take out a ruler and measure those?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall the size of what we call the meplet, which is that very top of the projectile? Do you recall the size of the live rounds?
Yes, the live rounds were 6 millimeters and the dummy rounds were 4 millimeters.
Every single live round, well, suspected live round, taken from the set of rust, was it a 6 millimeter meplet?
Yes.
All of the live ammunition that was taken from PDQ, to include the live ammunition that Seth Kinney brought into the sheriff's station, did any of those have 6 millimeter meplets?
No.
Do you have any evidence that Seth Kinney is the source of the live rounds on rust?
No.
If you know, is there evidence that Hannah Gutierrez brought the live rounds onto the set of rust?
Yes.
What is that evidence? Let's talk about it.
The evidence that I am aware of is a photograph on a cell phone of the rounds in the background of a photograph that was taken with a cell phone. Those rounds are the same ones from the same box that were being pulled from that day that were handed to Lieutenant Benavides.
Let me see if I can find an exhibit to help us.
What do you all think? Is she rehabilitating the witness? Yes or no?
State's Exhibit 12.
Good
If
luck.
you wouldn't mind, go ahead and clear your screen, the marks. Is this the box you're referring to right here?
Yes.
Is it your understanding that Hannah Gutierrez admitted to bringing that box on the set?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that Hannah Gutierrez actually provided evidence to the sheriff's department that she was provided that box by her father?
Yes.
And the Good Samaritan who came in with the live rounds and was telling you Seth Kinney's the bad guy, that happened how long after the incident?
That happened well after the incident in after February, so March of this year.
So Ms. Hutchins died in what year?
In October of 2021.
And Mr. Teskey, Hannah Gutierrez's father's good friend, the Good Samaritan, he decided to bring this ammunition in after her conviction?
Objection.
Is that right?
Objection assumes facts, not evidence, misleading.
Overruled, unless you want to come up and tell me.
Yes, I do.
All right, come on up.
So you all are saying no, this does not rehabilitate the witness. I'm unclear as to whether, so Larry is basically tweeting, this is officially a trial within a trial now. We're bringing in Gutierrez. We didn't, I guess the jury had previously obviously not known that Hannah Gutierrez Reed was convicted in this incident, and now they do. And now we're bringing in, no, Hannah Gutierrez Reed was the one who did that. It wasn't Seth Kenny. I'm not exactly sure what relevance this all has or what Morrissey is trying to do, but
Reporter, would you read back the last question, please?
it doesn't make this witness look honest. She's deflecting because she can't do anything. Whether it was Seth Kenny or not, doesn't really matter.
Good friend, the Good Samaritan, he decided to bring this ammunition in after her conviction. Is that right?
Go ahead and answer.
Yes.
In your experience, if Seth Kenny wanted to hide the fact that he had live ammunition at PDQ, he had plenty of time to get rid of it, right?
Yes.
And you found some there, right?
Yes.
And the photograph, well, was all of the live ammunition in the same place?
Yes.
Where was it found?
It was in a box on the bottom of a stack labeled as live ammo.
And for completeness, was there live ammunition found in another room away from this box?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Did you find any ammunition that was not .45 caliber anywhere else at PDQ?
I believe there were 2 boxes of marked 38 caliber ammunition that were in another room.
Did Mr. Kinney tell you that his personal firearm's a .38?
No, I did not know that.
Okay. I'm going to show you what has been previously admitted as defendants A23. Is this, so when we're talking about .45 caliber ammunition, well, let's back up. Is that the only caliber of live ammunition or suspected live ammunition found on the set of Rust?
Yes.
21, you said?
23, A23. So if you find 38 live ammunition, is that important to you?
No,
Because 38 is not 45, right?
correct.
So the 45 caliber ammunition that you found at PDQ, is this where you found it?
Yes,
Any mistaking that that would be live ammunition?
no.
Why?
It was clearly marked as live ammunition in that box.
And let me ask you, Ms. Popple, the ammunition that the Good Samaritan, Mr. Teskey, the close friend of Hannah Gutierrez's dad, when that ammunition that he brought to you after her conviction, you still have it?
Yes,
You can bring it in here and you can show it to the jury, right?
yes,
And they can see for themselves that it does not match the live ammunition from the set of Rust, correct?
yes,
And that is obvious just when you look at it, is it not?
yes.
The jury's paying close attention to this, apparently.
Do you know how many boxes of dummy ammunition were provided to the set of Rust by Seth Kinney?
If I recall correctly, just one.
Do you know how many boxes of dummy ammunition were provided to the set by Hannah Gutierrez?
No, I do not.
Fair enough. Now, you were asked some questions on cross-examination, and I think they were related to, let me get the exhibit just so that we know what we're talking about. You were asked some questions about the live ammunition in the other actor's gun belt. You remember those questions on cross?
Yes,
And I think the actor was Jensen Ackles.
correct.
Do you know whether or not Jensen Ackles checked his firearm on the set of the movie?
No, I do not.
Whether he did his own safety checks?
I do not know.
I'll be right back, you guys. I'll be listening.
Let's talk briefly about, let me make sure I have the proper exhibit numbers for the record. I want to be clear, if you recall, I'm showing you defendants A27. Where did those dummy rounds come from?
These were the dummy rounds removed from the box with blue writing that stated dummy rounds.
And who do you know supplied those rounds?
Seth Kenny.
And I think I made a mistake on direct examination. This is State's Exhibit 30. Is that what I showed you?
Yes, I believe so.
And so those actually didn't come out of that box, did they?
Correct.
Do you know where they came from?
They came from a gun belt that was located inside of the prop truck.
Defendants A26, is that where they came from?
Yes.
Based on the dummy rounds in both of these pictures, from the box and from the gun belt, do they have distinctive characteristics?
Yes.
Have they been identified? Who do you know who supplied all of the dummy rounds that were in the gun belt and in the box?
Yes, that was Seth Kenny.
All right. You were asked some questions about some documents that you photographed. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
I'm trying to find them. Are counsel, are all of the exhibits still up here? Take that as a yes.
No, I have these, I have the script of the shells.
Those are the exhibits? Does it say copy? Okay, can I use them then?
Yes,
Okay, as long as they're the same.
that is it.
Okay, we'll just use your copies. This is Defendant's Exhibit A10. You remember being shown this?
Yes.
Do you have any idea when this exhibit, or I'm sorry, when scene 125 was being filmed?
No, I do not.
Same question for scene, is it 55 or 66? I apologize.
No.
68,
No.
115,
No.
118,
No.
121,
No.
130.
No.
In fact, if you know, was Ms. Hutchins killed during the filming of an actual scene?
No, she was not.
She was not. Is that right?
Correct.
Same thing here for 118 again. Ms. Hutchins wasn't killed during the filming of a scene, was she?
No, she was not.
Do you know, if you do you know who wrote the script?
No, I do not.
Do you know who the director of the movie was?
I believe that was Joel Sousa.
Do you know whether or not he's going to come in and testify?
No, I do not.
Did he testify in the Gutierrez trial?
I believe he did, yes.
All right,
Did
how
you
are we
interview
doing?
the person who wrote the script?
No.
Did you interview any of the witnesses in the room at the time of the shooting?
No, I did not.
So you haven't talked to a single person who could tell you whether these defense A3 and A10 are relevant at all. Is that right?
Correct.
You're surprised that Spyro isn't objecting right now? I'm not. So far, we have not seen many objections from the defense. I don't think they're concerned
You
about this
were
line of
asked-
questioning.
By Mr. Spyro, whether or not it was true that live ammunition should never be on a movie set, and you said that was correct. Do you recall that?
Yes.
You've never worked on a movie set before, have you?
No, I've not.
How do you know that?
It is
It's
makes
common
sense to
sense.
me. Makes common sense.
Is Morrissey arguing
But
there
do
should be
you know?
live rounds on a
No,
movie
I do
set?
not know the rules of movie sets.
You're not aware that there are safety bulletins for the use of live ammunition on movie sets?
No, I did not know that.
God, she's so condescending. It's so irritating. Is she doing anything right now, Morrissey? Is she achieving her goals whatsoever? What do you all
All
think?
total, including prop truck, the entire scene out there at Bonanza Creek, how many real firearms were taken into evidence?
If I can look at my report.
Sure.
Somebody's saying that they're probably going to lose just because of how irritating Morrissey is. Honestly, I hate to say it, but you could be correct. She has a style, says Sybil. It's not great, but it's there. Yep. She certainly does. Let's see what Larry's been
I believe
tweeting.
13 in total.
13 real firearms.
Yes.
13. Oh, I thought it was more.
Now, you were asked some questions about Mr. Kinney being present at the search of the prop truck. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do you remember why he was present?
I don't recall the details of why he was present.
Do you recall how the sheriff's department got access to the safe?
Yes, Seth Kenny provided us with the combination.
And the firearms that you recovered, real and fake, who did they belong to?
Is my understanding they belonged to Seth Kenny.
Would you say that those firearms were many thousands of dollars in value?
Yes.
And do you know who provided the vast majority of the blank ammunition?
That I do not know.
Okay. Does it surprise you that the person who owns the guns had access to the safe?
No.
I know you guys don't like this, but let her cook. She's pretty. I think she's achieving something. Larry seems to agree. The
Have
jury
you ever discovered
is
any
coming back
evidence
around to the state.
that Seth Kinney was ever physically present on the set of Rust other than the day that he helped unlock the safe for your search?
No.
Okay. Well, that's profound.
Do you recall you were asked some questions about you had information about a green ammo can, and that was one of the reasons that you executed the search warrant. You recall those questions?
Yes.
Do you remember where you got the information about the green ammo can?
I do not.
Did you review any of the photographs from any of the cell phone extractions that were done in this case?
No.
Did you look at any of the text messages between the different witnesses in this case?
No.
Do you have any information that Hannah Gutierrez previously asked if she could have live ammunition on the movie set she was working on with Nicolas Cage?
I do not have that information.
Okay. Now, I understand we've got some photographs of PDQ and it looked like it was really packed full of stuff. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, you called it a warehouse. Can you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury about how big that facility is?
It's a very small facility. It has an upfront office, a hallway that leads to a bathroom, and one small workshop room, and then a room towards the back.
Is it possible for you to estimate the square footage?
No, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay. It's a small building.
Yes.
Now, as a crime scene technician, are you trained to find pieces of evidence in difficult areas?
Yes.
Have you ever been in a person's home or apartment that kind of looked like a hoarder place?
Yes.
How many times do you think that's happened to you?
Several dozen,
Several dozen.
at least. Yes.
And you're trained to look for evidence in that kind of an environment.
Yes.
Is it your understanding that Mr. Kenny's business is a prop house?
Yes.
Would you expect a prop house to be full of props?
Yes.
Was the prop house indeed full of movie props?
Yes.
Did anyone live there?
I don't believe so. No.
Do you have any idea, based on the investigation that you did, whether or not Mr. Baldwin cocked the gun when he wasn't supposed to?
I do not have any information based on what I conducted. No.
Because you didn't interview any of those witnesses, right?
Correct.
Mr. Club Twirl Guy, yes, I can see the comments. I can see chat.
You were asked some questions, or at least one or two questions, about your pretrial interview with the defense attorneys. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Was Mr. Spiro even present at your pretrial interview?
I don't believe so. No.
I'm almost done. Let me just review my notes.
I have two.
She's not doing bad. Larry
Okay.
seems to think that she's doing something significant and substantial. I trust Larry's assessment. He's in there. He's watching the jury. That's information we don't
If
have
you
access to.
know, the investigation into the source of the live rounds, did that investigation continue after the case was turned over to the district attorney's office?
I do not know.
By the way, I don't know if you saw somebody walk behind the witness, but I think the jury has questions for the judge about this witness, perhaps. We'll see.
As a crime scene technician, in your experience, do revolvers go off by themselves?
Objection?
Yeah.
701, 702.
Withdrawn.
All right, thank you. That was sustained.
I want to just back up real quick. You were asked a question on cross-examination about specifically information that you had prior to putting in the request for the accidental discharge testing. You recall that question?
Yes.
And I think you testified that you didn't recall what information you received. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you were provided a document to refresh your memory. Do you recall that?
Yes.
May I approach?
Sue Pickett says, I can't wait until Larry explains all of this to us. I'm confused. And I totally understand that because it's a little bit hard to follow. There's very dense information being exchanged, but I know that he will provide all the information you're looking for.
Demonstrative evidence.
Thank you, Judge. No problem.
what I can do for you right now is I can read you his tweets. I can give my assessment based on what I'm seeing, and I can encourage you to watch our evening stream. But let's see this in real time play out.
Ms. Popple,
There might be some
you had an
insight
opportunity to
on
review
Twitter.
that?
Yes,
How many pages is it?
it is 3 pages.
Does that document say anything about accidental discharge testing?
Objection.
That is that's a refresh of memory, so it doesn't have to.
I'm sorry,
I'm going to sustain his objection.
okay. Well, I'm going to ask this question and maybe let's see how it goes. Does it say anything about the gun being destroyed?
No. I'm sorry. No.
Did that document refresh your memory as to what you understood from the FBI about what the condition of the gun would be after the testing?
Yes.
It does.
Does refresh my memory. Yes. I'm sorry. Can you restate that?
Does that document, the question you were asked on cross-examination was about the information that,
Counsel,
okay.
I'm sorry to break you up, but let me give you these.
I wonder what this could be. So Larry has been tweeting. He is impressed with Morrissey and her performance. Apparently there are some witness questions from the jury. Larry has confirmed that. I'm going to go back. When Morrissey confirms through her witness that Hutchins was not killed during the filming of a scene, several jurors nod their heads. This is big, huge blow to the defense. Now I wonder why. I'm not sure. Can anybody clarify why it makes a difference whether she was killed during the filming of a scene and why that's a huge blow to the defense? I'll ask Larry, but he goes on to say how Morrissey just gets what she needs and drops the exhibits back on the defense table. You may not like her, but it was a power move. He tweets that 13 real firearms were recovered from the Rust movie set. The witness has no evidence that Seth Kenney has been on set except for when he unlocked the safe for her. Judge Summer casually glances at the clock while Morrissey is conducting her redirect examination of her fourth witness on day 2 of the Alec Baldwin jury trial. His last tweet from 3 minutes ago says, Judge Summer just alluded to the fact that the jury may have a few questions for this witness. We are about to find out if New Mexico is one of the jurisdictions that allows that to happen. Now, I believe it is the judge who is in charge of
Ms.
whether
Popple,
those questions can come forward or
was
not,
a
according to pretrial
fanny
motions.
pack collected from the set of Rust?
Yes.
Do you know who the fanny pack belonged to?
Yes.
Who's that?
That was Hannah Gutierrez.
And was any of the live ammunition found in the fanny pack?
No.
Thank you. I'm a little tired. I appreciate this. It's very obvious.
So after Ms. Hutchins was shot, do you know whether or not the gun was unloaded by anyone on the set?
The information that was relayed to me was that the firearm was emptied by Hannah onto the cart.
Does that include the spent casing?
Yes.
All right, so we've now clarified, and this is obvious, and it should have been clear to me, that because it was blocking, because it was essentially dress rehearsal, there was no real reason for him to be using that weapon. There was no filming being done. He could have very easily been holding a fake gun. He could have been holding a banana, for all we're concerned. And generally speaking, I mean, as somebody who used to do acting, like when I was a kid, blocking, you do tend to use props, but considering the safety risk, I've never been on a set where there were weapons other than a BB gun. And so I'm not really sure. I guess the jury is noting the lack of necessity because the camera wasn't even rolling. So what did he need that particular gun for? He could have used a different weapon. They had a bunch of weapons on set. It would have had the same effect.
I just have one question.
All right.
The Good Samaritan asked you in reference to the ammunition he provided. Question, and that's the one that killed Helena. And you said yes, correct?
I don't recall that.
Do you deny it?
I don't deny it.
No further questions.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take our afternoon bathroom break. Please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court, and let's try to get back in around 3:20. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All rise for the jury.
We have 15 minutes. So I find it very interesting that now all of a sudden we're doing a trial within a trial, and the jury is now aware that Hannah Gutierrez has been convicted. That's significant. Tyler Bradman is asking, who is the next witness? I don't know. I would like to see if I can find a witness list somewhere, but I do not have one in front of me at the moment.
On the bench conference, but we're in recess for all intents and purposes for bathroom break for the rest of you.
Oh, I pronounced your surname correctly. I'm glad to hear that. I tried. Oh boy. Well, we have 15 minutes. Let's see. Okay, everybody. So what we just heard was the end of interrogation for witness Marissa Popple. And so now that she's off the stand, I can remove this banner. Now, I think that Spiro made her look terrible. The way that he questioned her on cross-examination, she absolutely looked like a liar, like she was hiding things, like she was incompetent, she did not perform her job correctly, and her statements were also inconsistent. He pointed that out numerous times. And she got very flustered and very agitated. So there are significant problems with that. The problem is some of this information is so dense and so complex and technical that it kind of goes over my head. And so I'm going to be relying heavily on Larry to kind of interpret this for all of us. And I'm going to see if he's tweeted anything other than announcing that we are on break. But I'm happy to discuss this with you all based on my wealth of knowledge. So if we go back, oh, there's audio here. If we go back through Larry's tweets, let's go to the beginning, shall we? Oh, these headphones are a little finicky. That was not meant to show, but oh well. That's better. So let's see. I think Larry is very compelled by Morrissey's rehabilitation. I actually do think that she rehabilitated this witness. In particular, it seemed as though Spiro was trying to insinuate that the person responsible for the live round on the set, in particular, was Seth Kenney. And Seth Kenney, from my understanding, took a plea deal. He was, I don't think that he was ever named. I mean, it appears that in Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's trial, it was indicated that she was the one who brought live rounds on the set. So I'm not sure where Spiro was going with that. And he did not correct that information after Morrissey's rehabilitation. So I'm not sure what defense is doing exactly. He was a really good hypnotist. He definitely, sort of hypnotized, me and others. I was very compelled by his line of questioning. I think he definitely made the witness look bad. But the question is, if it was really Hannah Gutierrez-Reed who had the bullet, if she was the one who brought live rounds onto the set, if that's been confirmed, and let me know, chat, for those of you who watched the trial, if it was indeed Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, this is a key important component. This is a really huge material fact that I simply don't know all the facts. So please feel free to let me know. It seems as though it was confirmed that Hannah Gutierrez-Reed brought live rounds on the set, that they matched, that there were photos, there was evidence. And now that she's been convicted, even though I'm not sure if it was the bringing live rounds onto set that convicted her, that is a key fact that makes Spiro's line of questioning about Seth Kenney rather confusing. It's also important that Seth Kenney, according to this witness at least, she never had any awareness that he was on set other than the one time to unlock the safe, I believe. So if it's the case that Seth Kenney was not ever on set, how could he have brought live rounds? And how can he be held responsible for this? It's pretty confusing. I think that Morrissey did a good job of clarifying some of the inconsistencies that Spiro was trying to point out. I'm no longer as wary of this witness, but I think the jurors have questions. So what the judge said on Monday, essentially, and something that Larry doesn't know that I actually do, is that New Mexico does allow for jury questions in this jurisdiction. However, it is up to the judge's discretion whether or not she will pass them along to the witness. So now that this witness has been relieved of duty, she's no longer being questioned, it appears that those questions are not coming forward. So I don't think that we are going to hear from the jury on that. I think the questions they asked either were irrelevant or the judge deemed them to be unimportant, non-essential. So that is within Judge Summers' discretion. Whether the jury asks certain questions, she has to review them first before she passes them along. Let's see. So I want to know from you all, do you think that Morrissey did a good job rehabilitating the witness? Because I know I asked that throughout the stream, but we weren't at the end yet. I wanted to see the whole thing play out. And it didn't seem at first as though she was doing a very good job. I felt like her first questions, she wasn't addressing the most egregious errors. But then I kind of saw she was sort of building up to, she was building her rehabilitation very carefully. And I think she did a good job. Even though I don't love her personality, I respect her. I respect the job that she's doing. So I think we're kind of mixed. So I see some people in chat don't like her. They don't like what she did. They still don't trust this witness. I don't know. I guess my question is, if the criminologist in this case made significant errors, then what bearing does it have exactly? Does it have a lot of bearing? Does it have a little bearing? Is it significant and substantial? Or is it possible that she just had a significant job to do, going through a lot of physical stuff, and that she did her very best? I'm not sure. I want to review this because after a couple of days of streaming sort of nonstop, my brain's a little tired and I'm tuning a couple of things out. And so relying on my own personal compass for this one is a little tricky. I'm not sure all what happened just now. It was kind of a blur. I'm just going to be totally honest with you. And that's why we have a lawyer in the courtroom. Let's see what else Larry has to say. I think that's it. I think that was his last tweet about the questions for the witness. Peter Nelson is saying that he feels like it will be a hung jury. Interesting. I mean, remember, even though it's a quick trial, we are still only on the fourth witness on the, out of 8 days, we're only on the second day of trial. And there are well over 50 something witnesses. So we have a lot of important people to hear from. We're barely into the state's case. We still have, the defense case to put on. I mean, there's a lot that's going to come up. So I feel like I'm kind of like a ping pong ball right now. I'm going back and forth. I'm being, I'm being hammered between both sides, and I'm not really sure where we're going to go with this all. But it is compelling. It's one of the more interesting trials in that once I think I know where they're headed with this and what my opinion is, all of a sudden something else comes up and I kind of get whiplash. I'm thrown for a loop a little bit. So we'll see. Yeah, apparently there was one point where Baldwin, walked out and everybody was very concerned, and he came back with a coffee, I guess. But we are waiting. I think we have about 5 more minutes, a little time to kill. And I'm not sure if somebody asked in chat whether I'm a lawyer. I am not. I'm a paralegal, future law student, and hopefully will be getting my JD in the next 3 years. So I'm very excited about that. Lady Tosh Murray says, evidence was turned in after she was convicted. Doesn't look good. If that's a significant concern, I'm sure that the jury will attend to it. Vicki Watkins is saying Seth Kenney was never arrested or charged with anything, so he didn't need a plea deal. Am I incorrect about this? I pride myself on presenting the facts, but I am also streaming live, and so some of the information that I'm getting from chat, and sometimes chat does not always get it right. So I am relying on information that is fallible. So if I'm incorrect, I thought that Seth Kenney took a plea deal. I'd heard this from multiple people. I could be absolutely wrong about this. If you're correct, Vicki, I sincerely apologize for misstating that. I wonder where Seth Kenney is now. And somebody is saying that they wish that the camera person would pan over to the media side and that you want to see Larry. Larry hopefully will wake up a little early tomorrow and get somewhat of a better seat for Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's testimony, if she even is testifying tomorrow, because I'm not sure how many witnesses are left before her. I want to see if I can find the witness list and the order of witnesses. It was kind of a surprise that Ms. Gutierrez-Reed was going to be testifying. But I am rather surprised that the prosecution let that in, because that could work for them or against them. I think the jury might be a little confused, because if Hannah was convicted for this, then why is Alec Baldwin being charged? Didn't they get the right person? But it also could work in their favor. It depends on how they question her and how they set everything up. I trust Morrissey. I think Morrissey is going to do a good job with Ms. Gutierrez. I'm just not sure, I'm sure that Spyro is gunning for her. So if what he did today was any indication, I don't know. I think that Spyro will bring a fight. The question is whether Morrissey will be able to rehabilitate or not. It's so weird. I don't know if you guys feel like this, but I'm not really like a sports person. I grew up with baseball. I grew up loving the Dodgers, but that's really just because I'm an LA girl and I'm loyal to the team. I don't know anything about sports. And so when I look at trials, I feel like court is my sport. And when because you have your teams, you have the defense and you have the prosecution. And there are a lot of really compelling things that happen during court. You've seen the faces that Larry makes. It's riveting when you're cerebral and when you're compelled by litigation, like I know all of you guys are, because why else would you be here? You all love this as much as we do. And I know that we're nerds and I know that we are, really geeky about it, but it's fascinating to watch defense strategy play out. I just don't know. It's kind of neck and neck right now. So hopefully they'll be coming back soon. I don't know if it's Long Crime, but they're not back yet. And I'm still rather puzzled about whether the discovery that the defense didn't get in this case, 1,100 pages of discovery that took apparently close to 12 months to furnish. I wonder if there are going to be any kind of Brady motions filed about that. The state has argued that they provided everything they needed to, that there wasn't anything that the defense needed, but the defense asked for specific information that they did not get. I think maybe they got some stuff, but it was heavily redacted, and the redactions the state was arguing were necessary because they were part of lawyer-client confidentiality. And so I have questions about the way that the state has conducted their investigation in this case. I don't know if the state is dirty. I don't know if they're playing clean, but that whole element of discovery, Brady violations happen all the time, but it's really dirty and it's also illegal, highly, highly illegal. And it can tarnish a case. It can lead to a mistrial. It can be a significant and substantial problem. And it actually goes against I can't remember which amendment, rights. And I should know this because I went to constitutional law with Andrew Branca, his school, the Law of Self-Defense Legal Academy. I'm not remembering which specific. I need to take con law, you guys. I need to, once I get into law school and I take con law, I will be a little bit better versed. But Brady is it's substantial for a reason. Brady violations are when, if you weren't aware, the prosecution doesn't furnish essential discovery that could be either exculpatory or inculpatory, meaning that it could prove your client innocent, or, I mean, maybe it won't. Could it culminate into a bar complaint on the prosecution? It's something that I believe would be investigated by the bar, certainly. Somebody is saying that state is for sure not playing clean. If the person on the receiving end wasn't as loathsome as Alec Baldwin, more people would be outraged for sure. And I noticed you guys in chat, a lot of you really don't like Alec Baldwin as a person, but he's not on trial for being arrogant and contemptible and unlikable. He's on trial for a very specific crime. So you can be an asshole, you can be a total douche, you can be your wife can be faux Spanish and forget the word for cucumber in English, but that doesn't necessarily hold you to a manslaughter charge. So we're gonna have to see how it plays out. Let me see if Larry is saying anything else. A significant and substantial tweet. I'm going to read this. It looks like we have the seal back up. So I am going to share the screen. Oops, sorry about that. So this is what Larry is saying. He's saying, I'm so confused about how jury questions work in New Mexico. A couple of times now, I've seen a juror pass a note to the juror liaison, who passes the note to the judge, and the judge discusses the note at the bench with the attorneys. The questioning attorney is then given the note and takes it to the podium. What just happened with Morrissey, and she asked the question about the satchel, which was completely off the cuff, was probably one of those notes. Okay, so perhaps one of the questions may have been. He furnished an excerpt that he found on the Supreme Court of New Mexico website that may provide some guidance. Unfortunately, I don't think that Larry heard either. It just went over his head, but on Monday, it is the judge who rules whether the jury questions move forward or not. So if somebody can tell him that, that would be great. So he has this excerpt that says, ordinarily, the attorneys will develop all pertinent evidence. It is the exception rather than the rule that an individual juror will have a question that remains unanswered after all of the evidence is presented. However, if you feel an important question has not been asked or answered, you, the juror, write it down on a piece of your notepaper and give it to the bailiff before the witness leaves the stand. I will decide whether or when your questions will be asked. It's right in here. I don't know why. It's just the judge. It's up to the judge's discretion. That's all. Rules of evidence and other considerations apply to questions you submit and may prevent the question from being asked. So there you go. If the question is not asked, please do not give it any further consideration and do not hold it against either side that you did not get an answer. So I'm not sure why he's confused about that, but it seems to make sense to me. It seems pretty straightforward. It's up to the judge. Sometimes jury questions don't go forward because they, because essentially jurors don't really understand the way that the law works like an attorney does. And so the question they ask might be improper. It might be about evidence that, can't come in, etc. And so it seems to make perfect sense to me. But I think that this is just Larry trying to clarify what the rules are, because obviously this is a jurisdictional issue. I know that, I believe it was in Colorado. In Colorado, the jury can ask any question they want of the witness. And I believe that if the witness is represented by an attorney, their attorney can advise them on how to answer the question. I'm not entirely certain. But it basically varies from state to state. And so now we are in this particular territory where it's up to Judge Summer. Carol Deaton is saying, you need to let him get to sleep early. It was Larry, not I, who wanted to watch an extra episode of Rick and Morty last night, and I was the one who told him to go to bed. So he trust me, I'm pretty sure after today, we're both going to be pretty wiped out. I think we'll have no problem getting up early tomorrow. It's just kind of about adjusting to the time zone, but I want him to be able to get a really good sleep bright and early, because I know it was Andy Signori was saying, can we get you making another one of your faces to Larry? And he replied with a gif of Elaine Bredehoff going, I'm trying, Your Honor, I'm trying. And it's funny because in that gif, he's actually in the background. So it was a kind of a, I don't know if there's a word for that, but it was hilarious. I don't know if he's going to make another face like that, but he got, Larry gets in a little trouble for things like that. He's trying to be good. He is an attorney after all. Let's see. What's happening? Are we getting super chats on Court TV? Good attorneys on both sides. Nice to see. I was like, I don't remember bringing that super chat up. Well, here we are on day 2 of the Alec Baldwin trial, State of New Mexico versus Alexander Ray Baldwin. We are an hour and 34 minutes into the afternoon session. We are currently waiting for everybody to come back from this afternoon break. We are 5 minutes over, which is predictable because Judge Summer is almost never on time. We are waiting for the camera to pan out so we can see what's happening in the courtroom. I'm Chandler Remington, and for those of you who don't know me, I have my own channel, Remy Legal, and I am Larry's girlfriend. We are here in New Mexico together. We are both in Santa Fe. Larry is in the courtroom. He is a media member. He is live tweeting the trial, and I'm here streaming. We're going to switch off next week. I'm going to be in court, and he's going to be streaming on one of the days, but for the most part, you will be seeing me morning and afternoon. We are doing 3 live streams every day throughout the duration of this trial. Morning session and afternoon session with me, Remy Legal, and in the evening at around, I think, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, give or take, you will have Larry to do a recap of what happened in court for the day. So we have how much longer in court? I think we will probably be going until about 5 p.m. today. It seems that that's the typical schedule that the judge likes to be on. So we're just waiting to come back and see what happens with this next witness. We finished up the last witness, Marissa Popple, who was the criminologist. She was kind of obliterated by Spiro, but I think that Morrissey was able to rehabilitate her a little bit. And I'm looking forward to hearing Larry's observations about the jurors because it's kind of a tennis match. We're going back and forth. I think Morrissey and Spiro are now more evenly matched than they appeared to be yesterday. I think Spiro has some good fight in him. I think that he's a good attorney. I just don't know if the facts are on his side. So we'll find out more soon whenever we come back from this break. Please tell me your parents named you after Chandler from Friends. It says I think. I just see somebody with the name I. And no, unfortunately, I actually was born before the show ever was on the air. I was, I think, like 6 months old when Friends actually aired. So it was bad timing. And I have my entire life, every single time I meet somebody, they ask me, oh, you're Chandler? Like the guy on Friends? And then when Matthew Perry died, it kind of changed it to like, oh, your name is Chandler, like the guy on Friends. And Matthew Perry was a really good dude. I don't know if you guys know this about him, but he actually, through his struggles with addiction, he ended up changing one of his houses into a halfway house for men struggling with addiction, trying to rehabilitate them. And I didn't know that about him until after he passed away. But I'm honored to share a name with, you know, a character played by a man who was so noble. So in any case, yeah, no, I was not named after the show. But everybody seems to remember my name more easily that way. One time I had somebody say, oh, your name is Chandler, like Raymond Chandler, and I wanted to kiss them on the mouth. One time, one person. Oh, finally. Okay, we are back in court. We don't have audio yet. That is Mr. Baldwin, in case you did not recognize him. He looks very attentive to whatever's on the table in front of him. We see the attorneys conferring. I think Larry tweeted something. Judge Summer walks in, but the attorneys are nowhere to be found. Morrissey said they were going to do a powwow before we broke for the bathroom break. So I had to know. I'm sure we will be resuming audio soon. But this is a new experience for me for the most part. We did this a little bit during the Karen Reed trial. I did go to Boston with Larry. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get in for most of it, but we tried. This is the first time that we're really doing this kind of tag team thing. And I think we make a great team. And I'm really glad that you guys enjoy my streaming style. I'm not Larry, and I'm not an attorney. I don't have his expertise, but I do have an analytical mind, and you guys seem to enjoy my commentary. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for subscribing to the DUI Guide Plus. Thank you for liking this video. If you haven't liked this video, please do. It's easy. And thank you for all of your commentary in your chat, because you guys are very engaging every day. You come up with new questions, new ideas. You are the hive mind of the internet. And I think Larry's chat is one of the best chats, really, out of all of LawTube. So I'm honored to be here, and I'm honored to bring you my very best legal analysis and Larry's tweets. Let's see. Do we have audio yet? We're getting there. Nicole Fata says, we need some background music for all of these muted court moments to help pass the time. And I agree, that would be nice. I wish Court TV would do like a little, maybe not like Jeopardy, maybe some jazz or, I don't know, some reggae or something. Maybe some ska, punk, I don't know. I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not a bad singer. I know Larry likes to sing for you guys sometimes, and I'm always like, why would you do that to your audience? I love the comments that he gets, like, my cat just ran out of the room screaming. He's not terrible, but no, I'm not gonna sing. I'm just going to wait patiently with you all and chitter chatter until audio comes back on. Okay, jury's coming in. We will. Okay, the state has. The state has called Alessandro Pieta. He is the gun manufacturer, and he's going to be a fact witness. Oh, I'm so sorry, you guys.
To produce a gun and assist my brother producing, studying, engineering demo.
I'm going to go back a second.
Does Pieta Firearms
Companies in
manufacturing firearms?
the company had been founded in 1963 from our dad, and my brother and myself are running the company since 2000.
And are you familiar with how Pieta Firearms are actually made?
Yes, of course.
And how are you familiar?
I've been working in the company since 1995, and I've been taught by my dad how to produce a gun and assist my brother producing, studying, engineering demo.
Does Pieta Firearms have quality control measures and inspections of their firearms?
Yes, we do.
And what are those?
We start from raw material, and then we check all the machining part, and then we got our quality control on the assembly department, and of course before shipping the gun to the customer. So we got several steps in our procedure line.
And does Pieta Firearms use Well, what kind of manufacturing technology does Pieta Firearms use?
Well, we've been involved a lot in the industrial 4.0. That means that we are using the most actual manufacturing technology available on the market.
So you're basically high-tech technology?
Yeah, we use CNC machine, full control of robotic system. It's not just by hand, but also use the modern technology.
Okay. So, excuse me, what does Pieta Firearms do to ensure that a gun that leaves Pieta Firearms doesn't have any defects? And Mr. Pieta, if I can just have you pull the microphone a little closer and then speak a little slower.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
And then if you could just speak a little slower, please.
sure. We do have our quality control operation, but being an Italian manufacturer, by law, we had to send the gun to a national proof house. It's not a private company, but it's a public company. And all the guns that we produce, all the guns that are imported or made in Italy, need to be tested by this proof house. They have their own standard quality controls, and they also give us a certificate, and they stamp on the gun their marks. So there are different systems that we use to check the guns.
What is a proof house?
A proof house is a public company that shoot the gun, test the gun, take certain dimension. We have CIP homologations that is different from the American. It's called SAMI, but they're very similar on the concept. We have certain dimension and be checked in order to be sure that the gun works properly. They also shoot the gun higher pressure, so they know that the gun will not blow up during your regular training section. And of course, they check all the safeties on the guns.
So before the gun leaves your company, Pieta Firearms, do you guys do checks of the guns first?
We do our own final check for quality reports. That means that we also looking for aesthetical defects. And of course, we do our own quality on the trigger pull or on the action to be sure that everything in proper situation.
And so in addition to that, then it goes to the proof house and they do their checks as well?
The proof house check the gun as a piece of steel, if you pass that name. I check the gun for the customer because they want to get a nice gun, so without any scratches or without any cosmetical defects.
Does that also involve checking the internal parts of the gun to make sure that there are no defects?
That's done before by our quality control office, and we do that in the company.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 50.
No objection.
Your Honor, being that there is no objection, I would move into evidence State's Exhibit 50 and ask to have it published. On the screen in front of you, Mr. Pieta, State's Exhibit 50. Do you recognize that?
Yeah,
What
it's
is
one
it?
of our single action revolver. Probably, actually, it's written 45 long Colt. That's the caliber, 7.5 barrel length.
Are you familiar with this particular gun?
I know this gun because I know that gun has been produced for a trade show called SHOT Show, and has been shipped to Vegas in particular for that show.
Were you involved in the manufacture of this particular gun?
I was personally involved producing this sample for that trade show.
And do you recall when this gun was manufactured?
I guess 2016 or 2017.
How do you manufacture this particular firearm?
Well, I would not say manufacturer. I could say I prepare this gun because being a replica, we need to make our customer happy. And of course, our main customers are collectors. So when we prepare a new sample or a new model, we study the books. So we study the American history and we look for details just to make a new model. That's why I've been involved to introduce this gun during this trade show.
So you said this was a single action revolver.
This is a single action type revolver. It means that every time you want to shoot, you need to pull the hammer, cock the hammer, and pull the trigger.
Is that what a single action means?
Yes.
So you have to cock the hammer before you pull the trigger?
Yes.
Okay. Is this different from other Pieta single action revolvers?
It's different on outside because the details are different. We are not used to make any marks on the grip, or we are not used to write the caliber on the trigger guard. But this is basically is the same gun with a different configuration.
So are the internal components of this gun the same as for others,
Yes, correct.
Pieta?
Correct.
Are the internal components of this particular gun, are they interchangeable with other Pieta single action revolvers?
Yes, they do.
Now, is the hammer to this Exhibit 50 that we see in front of us, is that different from other Pieta revolver hammers?
As the sides of the hammer and being polished just to create a different color.
Okay. But is it similar in as far as specifications?
It's the same.
It's the same to other firearms? I'm going to show you what's been admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 6. If I can have the deputy bring it up and ask you to put on some gloves.
Sure.
So you can.
Yeah. No, I don't.
He has them.
Oh,
right.
good. Thank you. Sure.
If you can open the box, Mr. Pieta. Do you recognize what's in there?
Yeah, it seems to be the same gun that's on the screen.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 51.
No objection.
I move into evidence 51, Your Honor, with no objection.
Page 51 is submitted, you may publish.
Now, if you can take a look at that firearm Exhibit 6 that's in front of you, does it have a serial number?
Yes, it is.
And I'm going to put on the screen State's Exhibit 51. Do you recognize that?
Yeah, that's our invoice that probably has been used to ship the gun to EMF.
Does this invoice contain or list this particular gun that's in front of you, Exhibit 6?
Can I check the serial number?
Yes, please.
Can I touch the gun?
Yes, with your gloves.
Okay. Yeah, it's the same serial number.
Okay. So did Pieta Firearms then ship this gun, Exhibit 6, per this invoice?
Yes, we did.
And when and to whom was it shipped?
It's been shipped to EMF company. That is one of our customer that show with us during SHOT Show. So to get the gun inside United States, we need to get someone can get all the license to import the gun for us. That's why this sample has been shipped to EMF.
Okay. What kind of a company is EMF?
EMF is an importing company, and they sell to distributor, dealers, and to individuals.
Is EMF associated with Pieta Firearms?
Yes, it is.
How?
We, Alberto and myself, own EMF.
So you own EMF?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And so when did you ship this particular firearm that's in front of you to EMF?
It's written on the invoice, 27 November 2017.
So that's when it left Italy to go to EMF?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me go back to ask you a question about this hammer. You had said that it's nickel plated because this was for a particular.
No,
this
it's not nickel plated, it's just polished.
Oh, polished. I'm sorry. Does that change its functionality?
No.
Okay. Did this particular gun go to the proof house?
Absolutely.
And was it approved by the proof house?
Yes, it is.
And how can you tell?
Well, there are some marks on the frame that is clearly on the top of the serial number. So you can see them. There's also another proof mark on the cylinder. So they're easy to understand that this gun has been proved by the proof house.
And what does that mean to you as a gun manufacturer that's been approved by the proof house?
That we have produced a good gun, follow the CIP regulation, and the gun can be sold to anyone. Without that marks, we cannot sell or produce or export any guns.
Now, once it comes to the United States, do you know if your guns or these guns that you import are also subjected to testing by American agencies?
No, actually, all the guns that want to be imported in the United States need to be approved by ATF first. So when we start producing this single action revolver, we send a sample or few samples to ATF agent and they approve the gun for us.
Do you know what ATF does in
Yeah.
order to approve the guns?
Mostly they have a schedule and with details, so they need to check if our guns, actually a gun, match their requests. And also they call drop test that is used to see if the gun is safe enough to avoid any kind of malfunction.
You said a drop test. What do
Yeah.
you understand that to be?
Drop test means that the gun has to be approved. They have a safety, and in this particular gun, the safety is on the cylinder, and they put the safety on. They put a primer, not a live round, of course, a dummy. They put the hammer in the first notch, so the firing pin is lined with the primer, and they take a weight, let it drop at 8 or 4 feet, something like that, 5 times. And again, the system should not shoot. If that is okay, they approve the gun.
And so does your P at the firearm revolvers get put through that test by ATF?
Absolutely.
And that's to test to make sure it doesn't fire on its own?
No, that test means that we have safety on the gun.
Are you familiar with how this particular gun fires?
What that mean?
Well, what does it take to
You need to
make
put,
it shoot?
you need to cock the hammer and pull the trigger.
Do you know this gun that you have in front of you will fire without a pull of the trigger?
Actually, this gun cannot fire because from what I see is missing some parts. So.
Okay, I'm talking about when it was first
Oh, sure, of
manufactured.
course.
Does it fire? Would it fire without a pull of the trigger?
No.
Why not?
Because the mechanic, the design of the hammer and the trigger has been designed since Samuel Colt made this gun to work in that way.
And can you explain under what circumstances it will only fire?
Well, when you cock the hammer, the trigger will engage the firing knock position. That is the farthest one, so the last position on the hammer. And if you want to release the hammer, you need to pull the trigger. The trigger is just a sear that locks the hammer in that position. And if you want to do that, you need to pull the trigger.
Okay. Now, is there also a manufacturer's warning about whether or not the firing pin should be sitting on a primer?
Well, actually, it's not just a manufacturer, it's a standard rule between shooter when you carry your gun, in this particular gun, to load just only 5 ammo and not 6.
Why is that?
For safety reason. So you will know that you will not, if eventually the gun fall down, nothing happens.
What could happen if the gun falls down and the primer's...
Most of the time, nothing, because the hammer is against the frame. And so if you hit the round, the primer will not shoot the primer. So it's just a safety rule that has been taught to every kind of shooter. So I've been a shooter for myself, and that's what they told me to do. So load 5 rounds on the cylinder instead of 6.
And will it fire, let's say you load 6. And what could happen if you load 6?
Nothing really, just need to know that you load 6 rounds instead of 5.
Okay, but if you have the firing pin on the 6th round?
If the firing pin is in the rest position when the hammer is down the frame, so the firing pin is not against the primer, nothing happens, because if you want to shoot the primer, you need to apply a certain quantity of force to shoot it. So you can get a thick touch on the primer, but the gun will not shoot.
If the firing pin is actually on the primer?
Close to.
Okay, but you had said that if the firing pin is on the primer and you drop the gun, what could happen?
Usually, it's based on the primer technology. The powder in the primer is not at the top of the primer, it's just a little in the middle. So you need to press it a little more. And when you reach that point, you can shoot the load under the firing pin.
So what I'm hearing you say, it sounds like the only way you can fire this gun is by pulling the trigger?
That's the way that should be done.
Is there another way to
No.
fire this gun?
No.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
All right. We were anticipating this. This man was the
Let me
subject
ask
of
you,
motions earlier.
What condition was this gun in when you shipped it, when Pieta shipped it to EMF?
As I said before, this gun has been produced for a trade show. So we ship the gun without the firing pin. That is mandatory for this trade show, that all the guns are saved. And doing that, there are inspectors that check all the guns for us and put a tag. So the consumer, the customers, will know that they cannot use the gun to shoot to anybody.
So not having a firing pin in that gun while it was used in trade shows, does that alter it or change it in any way?
Well, you are missing one part, that's it.
But does it change any internal components of it?
No.
Now, did Pieta Firearms own EMF while, during the time EMF owned this gun?
Yeah.
To your knowledge, did EMF do anything to this gun?
No.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm wondering if we can get Andrew Branca to come on here and give us a little information about all this weaponry, because I'm not the
Just a
guy.
couple more questions, Mr. Pieta. When Pieta Firearms shipped this to the United States, to EMF, did it send the firing pins with it?
I don't remember,
Okay.
really. Sorry.
How hard is it to install a firing pin?
Pretty easy. It's just a pin and that's it.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions, but the
Sure.
other lawyers will.
Thank you.
Oh, defense is going to go hard on this guy. I saw a preview of it on Monday.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pieta.
Good afternoon.
Just have a couple of questions for you. We'll be out of here quickly. We heard you say that you personally made this gun. Is that right?
Yeah.
And it was shipped from your company, Pieta, in 2017?
Yeah, that's what is written on the invoice.
Between 2017 and October 2021, you don't know how this gun was handled by any particular individuals. Is that
No.
correct?
No, I have no idea.
Your knowledge of the gun's functionality was limited to November of 2017 when it was shipped from your company. Is that fair?
That's not correct, because my knowledge about this gun was also during this trade show that's been held in January. So probably the last time I saw the gun was in January.
So roughly beginning of 2018. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And so you don't know what condition the gun was in on October 21st, 2021, when it was being used on the rust set by Mr. Baldwin. Is that correct?
Correct.
And before the gun was sent to the FBI for testing, and 2022, you were not asked to inspect the gun. Is that right?
Correct.
And in fact, the Santa Fe sheriff didn't ask you any questions about the gun at that time. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Or at any time,
I never see anyone except today.
even though you personally made it. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
And so the first time that you had seen the gun since about early 2018 was about 2 months ago. Isn't that right?
I saw the picture of the gun during a preview interview that we got on Zoom in a Zoom meeting.
Someone held up a picture of the gun on a Zoom meeting,
Yeah, this picture probably.
and that was the first time since 2017 you had seen the gun. Yes.
Well, of course, I got this picture on my computer, but I never recalled that was the one that was sent to everybody else.
And at that point, the gun was already broken. Correct, sir?
It's the first time I see the gun, I may say yes.
Great. Thank you. No further questions.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was a little softer than I expected. According to Larry, the jurors weren't really taking notes during that, so I'm not sure where they stand on this witness. It was a little hard to understand his Italian
Who's your next witness?
accent, but we mostly got the gist.
Your Honor, the state calls Justin Neal.
All right.
I know she has the house to so I'm just gonna.
Justin Neal. Okay.
Face the judge and raise your right hand, please, sir.
Do you swear affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Have a seat, tuck into the microphone.
Did they take the gun?
Yes.
Okay, I need it. Thank you. May I proceed, Your Honor? Good afternoon, sir. Would you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Yeah, my name is Justin Neal.
And sir, how are you employed?
I own my own marketing firm.
And what kind of work do you do? What kind of marketing work?
My marketing firm is a very stereotypical ad agency, and we have another leg to our company where we recruit and manage sales reps for our clients,
What kind of clients do you have?
primarily outdoors.
And are you affiliated with Pieta Firearms?
Yes.
How?
Pietta's a little bit more robust than the other clients I have. I essentially handle North America for them as it pertains to sales and marketing. And I also handle EMF, which they are part of, as their sales and marketing person.
What is EMF?
Early Modern Firearms is an importer, and it's based out of Santa Ana, California. They have been in business for 65 plus years, and very much back in the day, they used to supply a lot of firearms, Pieta and otherwise, to Hollywood.
Who owns EMF at this time?
Alessandro and Alberto Pieta.
And how long have they owned EMF?
I believe 2017.
And what exactly is it that you do for EMF?
I handle, again, the sales of the guns that they have of Pietas. EMF only imports and distributes meaning sells to retailers, Pieta firearms. So I handle the sales of Pieta firearms through EMF through distribution.
Are you required to have a federal firearms license?
I am.
And why is that?
I am an RP on the FFL for EMF. There has to be two responsible parties, and the Pieta family or the Pietas entrusted in me to be one of the RPs on that FFL.
And RP is what?
Responsible party.
And what does the responsible party do?
The responsible party is responsible for the distribution, the importing of the firearms, and all the paperwork thereof.
So as the responsible party for EMF, are you also required to be aware of what transactions take place, what firearms are sold by EMF?
Yes.
Are you familiar with how EMF maintains its records of sales?
Yes.
In September of 2021, do you recall a transaction between EMF and a company called PDQ Arms and Prop?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you recall that?
I recall that because I saw the actual sales record or the shipping invoice and the packing slip.
I'm going to show you, well, let me ask you this. How did PDQ contact you, or how is it that you guys learned that PDQ needed to purchase arms?
Yeah, they contacted EMF.
Okay. And what was the request for?
The request was for firearms that he saw on the website. EMF obviously has a website, and he wanted some revolvers. And at that time, 2021 was the heart of the pandemic, and Pieta and every manufacturer, gun manufacturer, was back ordered. So we didn't have any. The lady in which he talked to initially said, we do have display guns that we show at trade shows. And so we said we had those guns.
Okay. Let me show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 52.
Mm-hmm.
No objection.
Your Honor, the state would move into evidence 52. I'm going to show you, well, before you is State's Exhibit 52. Do you recognize that?
I recognize it, yes.
What is it?
It is a Pieta single action revolver.
And how do you recognize that is a Pieta single action revolver?
Because that was a display gun that we had at some of the trade shows in which I attended and I monitored.
I'm going to show you what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 6 and ask you to put on some gloves and take a look at that gun.
Okay.
So squeaky.
Can I open it?
Yes, please.
If the glove doesn't fit, you must have
Do you
quit.
recognize State's Exhibit 6?
Yes.
What is it?
It is the same gun that's shown on the screen, the Pieta single action revolver.
So it's the same gun as depicted on 52? State's Exhibit 52?
Yes.
And tell me, was this one of the guns that was sold to PDQ?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as stated. Keep that in front of you because I may ask you some additional questions. If you can just close the box, but I will ask you some additional questions. Let me show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 53.
No objection.
We'd move into evidence State's Exhibit 53.
States 53 is admitted.
Mr. Neal, do you recognize what's in front of you as State's Exhibit 53?
Yes.
What is it?
It is a shipping report, and that is shipping invoice
From whom to whom?
from EMF to PDQ.
And when was that?
It was in 21, order date 9/29/21.
Okay. So on September 29, 2021, were these firearms that are listed on this invoice shipped to PDQ?
Yes.
And is Exhibit 6 that's in front of you one of those firearms that's on this invoice?
Yes.
Which one is it? You can actually touch the screen and it'll mark.
Oh, well, okay. I'd have to see the serial number.
Okay, so
On the
if you want to
gun.
look at the serial number of the gun in Exhibit 6. Actually, if you want to open it and you can check the serial number.
Yeah, it's right here.
Is it not making a mark? It might be your
It's
gloves.
it's the third one. I've got gloves on.
Okay,
It's the third one.
so,
E52277.
this one right here?
Yes.
So the number 3, the third gun on the invoice is Exhibit 6.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you, when did you become affiliated with EMF?
2018.
And do you recall approximately, was it beginning, mid, end of 2018?
And
When you became affiliated with EMF, did EMF already have Exhibit 6 in its inventory?
yes.
And did this gun, Exhibit 6, remain with EMF from the time that you were with them until September 29, 2021?
Yes.
And what did EMF use Exhibit 6, this particular gun, for?
To display at primarily industry trade shows, business to business shows, B2B shows.
So it was owned by the company the entire time?
Yes.
Did EMF do any work on this gun?
No.
Did EMF inspect it for quality assurance purposes?
Before each show, functionality. It wasn't, they didn't take apart the gun or anything, just to make sure it functioned properly. And then they would put it in what we call a sock, which is basically a soft case.
And when you say functionality, what does that mean?
That the gun works properly, not firing it, never fired, just the 4 traditional click of a Colt firearm, and the trigger worked properly.
And at any point during 2018 to September of 2021, was there any indication that this gun malfunctioned or had any defects?
No.
What condition was it in when it was sold to PDQ on September 29, 2021?
It was in perfect condition as far as I know.
You said that how often was this gun checked for functionality while it was owned by EMF?
We do approximately 5 shows a year, and so at least 5 times.
And you say 5 shows, does that mean, is it in a display case? Or?
It is in a locked glass display case.
So people can't just come and grab it?
They can't grab it, no.
Do you also, well, let me ask you this before we move on to the next topic. When this gun was shipped to PDQ, do you know what it was shipped in?
Yeah, EMF follows standard operating procedures, which they do for any gun shipped, whether it's to a dealer, a big box store, distributor, influencer. It is in Pieta makes and supplies EMF with a very hard styrofoam box that's molded for single action, and it's placed in there, then a cover over the top of it that's fit to it, and then another cardboard box sleeve that slides over the top of that, sealed, and then it is put into another shipping box with whatever other guns or accessories the attended person or store requests.
Would that have been the manner in which it would have been shipped to PDQ?
Yes.
Do you also handle customer service calls for Pieta guns in the United States?
I handle quite a bit of the customer service calls, yes. Not all, but a lot.
Approximately how many would you say?
Over the years, since 2018, I probably on average handle 5 or 6 a month.
Okay. Have you ever received a complaint or a call about a Pieta revolver going off by itself?
Never.
Are you familiar with how this particular gun fires?
Am I familiar with how it fires?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Does it fire without a pull of the trigger?
No.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, I'm here, Counselor French.
What do you guys think of this witness so far? I think a lot of people were saying that Mr. Pieta was not very convincing.
If this particular gun, Exhibit 6, if it had displayed any defects in functionality, would it have still been shown at trade shows?
No.
Why not?
The purpose of Pieta or EMF going to a trade show is to sell firearms to FFL dealers, holders, not the public, but sporting goods stores, if you will. And if a buyer who wanted to specifically see this gun or any other was to hold it under our watchful eye, of course, and it was defective, he would probably not buy that gun or any other gun that we have.
So would it be fair to say you put the best of the best that Pieta has to offer?
Absolutely.
May I have a moment, Your Honor? Does the court want this one?
Who's breathing heavy into the mic?
Thank you, Mr. Neal. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
We have no questions from this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. Your excuse, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Did that guy do anything at all? I don't know. But if you're bored, the jury's probably also bored.
Just a minute, we're just a little out of order.
Next witness. And to all 3,569 of you who are currently watching concurrently across platforms, thank you for being here. Please press the like button. Please subscribe and stick around because I don't know who this witness is going to be, but could it be somebody else, another gun expert, somebody else from Pieta? I'm not sure. I don't know how much this is moving the needle. It's been established there wasn't really any damage that was known to the gun previously. I know that Baldwin's attorneys want to argue that the gun was somehow damaged, which made it go off accidentally without Baldwin pulling the trigger. But defense's argument is basically, well, you can't prove that nothing happened to the gun in between when it left the factory and when Baldwin fired it. There's no proof. So I think the burden of proof is on the defense here to prove that there was damage that occurred. There are not any witnesses that can testify to the fact that there was damage to the gun. Except for the FBI. They can say they damaged the gun because they tested it. I'm talking about before the firing of the gun, before the incident. It's pretty clear to me that he pulled the trigger. And there were a lot of witnesses on that set. There were a lot of people who were watching him, who were observing him. I'm looking forward to hearing from people who actually were eyewitnesses to the accident itself. Somebody in chat, whose name I cannot pronounce, Sir Lafalet, is saying, I'm so bored of the firearms experts. And I agree, it is a little boring, especially, I don't know, for me personally, I don't know a lot about firearms, and so everything they're saying is going over my head. I wish I could bring some insight, but I can't. All I know is...
The state calls Corporal Alexandria Hancock.
All I know is that I hope both teams have fun. I don't know what to say here. It's been a long day. All right, this is Corporal Alexandria Hancock.
Do you swear affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Have a seat.
Just state your name for the record, even though I know it's repetitive.
Alexandria Hancock.
And how are you currently employed?
I am a corporal with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department?
It will be 7 years in November.
And how did you become involved with this case?
In 2021, I was a detective with the Sheriff's Office. I was assigned to the Violent Crimes Division. On that day, we had received a call for a shooting at a movie set on the Bonanza Creek Ranch.
And you said you were on duty, and I'm sorry if I didn't hear you. What were you at the time? Were you a corporal?
No, I was a detective.
And did you show up to the scene there at Bonanza Creek Ranch?
Yes.
Do you know approximately what time?
I believe it was between 2:30 and 3 p.m.
And so can you kind of give the ladies and gentlemen of the jury an idea of what was going on? Were you the only detective on scene? Were there other detectives? What was happening?
Yeah, so when we had originally, it's called a briefing, essentially, back at our office, at the Sheriff's Office, we had a short briefing with all the detectives that were there that day about what had been learned thus far as to what occurred on the ranch. And so or I should say after that briefing, the detectives were assigned at that point on who would be handling and who would be assisting. And then from there, the entire team of us went out to the ranch.
So approximately how many people were in the team?
I want to say maybe 5 or 6 of us.
And how does the Sheriff's Department traditionally, is one detective named primary, or are there more than one? How does that work?
Just one is primary, and then typically they will have a secondary just depending on the case.
And how did it work out with this case?
Originally with this case, a different detective, his name's Joel Cano, was assigned the primary detective, and then I was assigned secondary.
And just so that we're clear, at some point, did you become primary?
Yes.
And at what point was that?
Probably at least a couple weeks later.
Okay. Now, in that interim, in those 2 weeks, were you actively working on the case?
Yeah, I was assisting with it.
And as the assisting detective, did you conduct interviews with witnesses on October 21st?
Yes, I did.
Who did you interview on that day? And then we'll back up.
Okay. On that day, I interviewed Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, David Halls, and Alec Baldwin.
So I want to be clear. You, as the assisting detective, interviewed all 3 of the people that were ultimately criminally charged.
Yes.
So if you were interviewing all of those, what I'm going to call sort of main players, what was the primary Detective Cano doing?
He was, on the day of the incident, he was interviewing the numerous people that needed to be interviewed back at the ranch.
And give us an idea of who those folks were.
That Detective Cano interviewed?
Mm-hmm.
They were people that were said to be inside the church at the time of the incident, or members that assisted with the armor.
Why was it necessary to have 2 detectives doing interviews at the same time?
Because of how many people were involved.
Okay. And have you continued to be the primary investigator with the Sheriff's Department on this case since 2 weeks after the incident?
Yes.
Now, when you were dispatched, well, it sounds like you weren't really dispatched, were you?
No.
Who called you in?
My lieutenant at the time, which was Mike Martinez.
And you indicated that you had a briefing.
Yes.
And tell us kind of what information you got at the briefing that you had before you went out to the scene.
Yeah, so during our briefing there at the office, we were told that there's a movie being filmed at Bonanza Creek Ranch, and then sometime during that day, shortly after we were called in or shortly before we were called in for that briefing, that 2 people had been shot on the set.
Did you receive information that the shooting had been characterized as an accident?
I do recall reading that on our CAD.
And as a detective with the Sheriff's Department, when you get called to a shooting that's being characterized as an accident, does that mean to you that there will be no criminal charges?
No.
Have you been dispatched or involved in accident investigations in the past that turned into criminal cases?
Yes.
So I just want to be clear. I know that the jury's heard some of this. So you interviewed Hannah Gutierrez, correct?
That's correct.
And what role did she have on the set?
She was the armorer, the main armorer on Rust.
And you also indicated that you interviewed someone named David Halls. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall what his role was on the set?
He was the assistant director.
And then, of course, you interviewed Mr. Baldwin, and we understand that he's an actor, correct?
Correct.
I want to just take you back for a moment. During opening, did you hear the defense attorney say that Sarah Zachary was not interviewed on October 21st?
I did hear that.
Is that correct?
No.
Was Sarah Zachary actually interviewed on October 21st?
She was.
Who interviewed her?
Detective Joel Cano with the assistance of Detective Ray Arndt.
And who was Sarah Zachary?
She was the props master for Rust.
If you would try to explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the relationship between the prop master and the armorer based on your understanding.
What I understood between the prop master and the armorer, as it pertains to Rust, is that they're technically 2 different departments. They have different functions, different roles, do different things. But in the case of Rust, the prop master and the armorer assisted each other because of what they would describe to be prop heavy this movie was.
And did you get an understanding of, when we say prop, exactly what we're talking about?
Yes.
So one of these gun holsters, would that be a prop?
Yes.
Would the guns themselves be props?
Yes.
Even the live gun, the real guns, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's correct.
And the ammunition, would that be considered a prop?
Yes.
Okay. And does that also include glasses and cups and plates and silverware?
Yeah, anything that an actor would use in a scene, excluding like wardrobe items.
Okay. And I understand that you indicated that Ms. Zachary was interviewed on the 21st of October by Detective Cano. Did you also conduct a follow-up interview with Sarah Zachary at a later date?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall approximately when that was?
I believe it was sometime in November.
So just the following month?
Yes.
And you testified that you conducted an interview with Hannah Gutierrez on October 21st. Did you also conduct a follow-up interview with her at a later date?
Yes, I did.
And approximately when was that, if you recall?
I want to say that was in November as well.
And you interviewed Mr. Baldwin on the 21st, correct?
Yes.
And did you have subsequent contact with Mr. Baldwin after the interview that you did on October 21st?
Yes, I did.
And how were you having contact with him? Was he in New Mexico, or how was that happening?
No, he wasn't in New Mexico at that point, but I would receive phone calls and sometimes text messages.
From Mr. Baldwin?
Yes.
Generally speaking, was it Mr. Baldwin reaching out to you or you reaching out to him?
It was him reaching out to me.
So he had your cell phone number?
Yes, my department cell.
And just to be clear, do the defense attorneys also have your contact information?
They do.
Have they sent you text messages?
I don't know exactly her title, but members from their team, yes.
Okay, so they actually have your cell phone number?
Yes.
And you've made yourself available to them?
That's correct.
And you do that whether I'm there or not, right?
Yes.
With regard to your November interview with Ms. Gutierrez, did you have a conversation with Ms. Gutierrez about who loaded the gun?
I did.
And what did Ms. Gutierrez say?
That she loaded the gun herself.
And did you have a conversation with Ms. Gutierrez concerning the box of ammunition that was holding that one suspected live round?
I did.
And what did Ms. Gutierrez say?
That it would be a box that she would have provided.
Objection, hearsay, unless this is information acted upon.
So my response, unless you want us to approach, is that these are statements against interest and they come in under that exception.
I don't believe that they are, but like I said, if it's information acted upon and we can cross on it, it's fine.
All right, go ahead.
Rare speaking objection from the defense. Interesting.
Did you have conversations? Well, let me ask you. Ms. Gutierrez indicated that she brought that box of ammunition on the set. Is that right?
That it was similar to one that she would have provided.
During that interview, did she produce a photograph for you?
She did.
And the photograph that she produced, did she tell you where she got it?
I don't know if she said in that interview exactly where she got it, but she did describe it to be a box like that was in the photo would be what she provided.
And the photograph that she showed you during the interview, did it match exactly the label on the box that contained the live ammunition?
Yes.
As you sit here today, do you have any question about who introduced the live ammunition to the set of Rust?
No.
Who do you believe it was based on your investigation?
Hannah.
Did you have conversations with Ms. Gutierrez about her firearms training?
The one that she conducted?
Yes,
or
specifically-
her own experience?
No.
Objection, hearsay.
I think we should approach. You will not want to?
Oh, go ahead. Come on up.
All right, so we heard from Corporal Alexandria Hancock that it was Hannah Gutierrez Reed who introduced the live round. And these are the state's questions. So clearly they do not feel as though this exempts Baldwin from being held liable. This is not a defense witness, Mel Serenity. This is a state's witness. It looks like we're going to have to get used to a lot of objections, a lot of sidebars. This is rather contentious, this trial. And as it should be, clearly both sides must vigorously fight for the outcome that they desire. That is their job. I think Spyro is doing well. I'm looking forward to seeing him cross this witness. Ooh. Let's see what Larry is saying. Morrissey does not shy away from the fact that Detective Hancock was responding to an accidental shooting, as it does not preclude criminal charges. Nearly all jurors are seen writing things down. He also tweeted about the jury composition. It looks like he's just kind of making a map of who's male, who's female, and where they're sitting. I'm sure that he'll have a more comprehensive sort of composition later on. So when Larry does his recap later, I'm almost certain that he will tell you all about the general, age and race, the demographic of the jury, like he did in the death trial. And it seems as though this witness also testified in Gutierrez Reed. She's very pretty. I wish pretty young women like this wouldn't get filler so much. It's not going to work out when she ages, but she's a lovely
You conducted an
professional
interview with
young
Mr.
woman.
Baldwin, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you learn during that interview whether or not Mr. Baldwin received any training regarding the use of these firearms?
Yeah, he had mentioned that he did a training session
With
shortly after with he said Hannah, which was the armorer, and then I believe he said Sarah and their assistant Nicole was there.
Okay. And did you interview Seth Kinney?
Yes, several times.
How many times do you think you talked to him?
I don't know if I could. I'm not sure I could put a number on it. I don't know, probably at least between 5 and 10.
Okay. And was Mr. Kinney cooperative with you?
Yes.
Did you request any search warrants in this case?
Yes.
What search warrants were requested?
I had drafted the search warrant for the prop truck as well as the search warrant for PDQ.
And PDQ, is that Mr. Kinney's business?
Yes.
Let me ask you, have you ever worked on a movie set before?
No.
And have you ever investigated a crime on a movie set before?
No.
On October 21st, 2021, did you know what a prop truck was?
No.
At some point through your investigation, did you learn what a prop truck was?
Yes.
And what's a prop truck?
It was an area that was used for storage.
Storage of?
This
Props?
particular prop truck?
Yeah.
It was actually multiple departments that were using it. I don't know exactly which ones, but the armorer and the props department had approximately half of the back of the truck.
And
so props. It stored props.
I think we heard previous testimony from Ms. Popple that the search of the prop truck didn't happen until the 27th of October, I think.
Yes.
Is that right? What was the delay?
Well, was
It was the search warrant, wasn't it?
not the case agent at that time, and so I really wasn't the one in charge of the investigation. And so what happens with your case agent is they kind of develop the flow and decide what's needed based on the information that they have and what we need to get.
What was one of the first things that you did when you became the primary on this case?
Started reviewing a lot of information.
How long after you became primary did you request a warrant for the prop truck?
Well, I wasn't the primary at the time that I requested that warrant. I was assisting.
Okay.
And so, I mean, between the day that the incident occurred, which was the 21st, and then the day that the search warrant was, I think, applied and executed for was the 27th, so 6 days.
And was the prop truck secured during that time?
Through my interviews, I found out that it was secured.
And how was it secured?
So the set, one of the individuals that worked on the set of Rust.
Objection, you're set. You were just right. Unless she knew it at the time.
This is information that she learned during her investigation.
But afterwards, it has nothing to do with.
Ask her did you get that date?
In terms of when she learned?
Yes.
When did you learn? Let me ask you this. When you showed up on the 27th of October, did anyone meet you at the prop truck?
Yes, and then we also had deputies that went out there at least a couple days before we had drafted that search warrant to secure the truck with 24-hour surveillance.
So when you went to the prop truck on the 27th, did someone have to meet you there to open it?
Yes.
Who had to meet you there to open it?
Her name was Ro Walters.
Okay. So on that day, did you understand that it was locked?
Yeah, inaccessible.
Okay, because she had to open it for you.
Correct.
And other than props generally, tell us what other things were stored inside that truck.
There was a firearm safe with firearms in it. There were firearms outside of that safe. I think there were like a bunch of chairs in it and maybe some like shade tents and stuff like that. There was quite a bit of stuff.
After you were let into the prop truck and it was unlocked for you, describe for us the safe. How big is it?
Maybe about 4 feet tall and maybe about a foot wide.
And did someone have to come and unlock that safe for you?
Yes.
Who was that?
Seth Kenny.
And when you executed the warrant on the prop truck, as it relates to this case, just summarize for us what you found. I mean, we don't care about tables and chairs and stuff.
Additional firearms, more ammunition. I think that was kind of the major things that we got off of it.
And are you familiar with the ammunition that was provided to the set of Rust by Seth Kenny?
Yes.
Where was that ammunition found?
Inside of the prop truck in a bag.
And when you say in a bag, was it inside something else?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Was it just loose in a bag?
Well, it was inside of a box that was inside a duffel bag type thing.
Okay. And Is it also, were you able, did you locate a black gun belt?
I don't think I was the one that located that.
Okay, all right, no problem. And we understand that you also executed a search warrant on PDQ, is that right?
That's correct.
And that was on November 30th, I think we heard?
Yes.
So prior to executing that search warrant, had Seth Kinney talked to you about live rounds?
I don't, yes, I believe so.
Do you recall, did Seth Kinney at some point bring live rounds to you?
He did.
Do you know whether that was before you searched PDQ?
It was before.
So you knew before you searched PDQ that he had live rounds because he took them and told you?
Yes.
Did you receive information prior to the search at PDQ regarding a green ammo can?
I did.
Who did you receive that information from?
From Thel Reed, which was Hannah's father.
In part, was it based on the information from Hannah's father that you executed the search warrant on PDQ?
Yeah, the information I learned from him was some of what I used.
And just to be clear, I want to be clear, the reason that you went and searched PDQ, one of the reasons is because Mr. Reed said Seth Kinney's got live ammunition, right?
Yeah, he did say that. He actually said that he was the one that picked up that live ammunition.
Who was?
Thel.
Thel picked it up.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Corporal, did it occur to you that Thel Reed may be giving you inaccurate information to protect his daughter? What?
I mean, unless we're going to be able to ask witnesses.
That's a little improper, but
I'm just asking you, I'm not asking about anybody else. Did it occur to you when you took the information from Mr. Reed and got the search warrant?
I guess it's
did you
not
know who to
improper.
believe at that point in time?
No.
Okay.
She's asking about her state of mind, not whether somebody else.
Clear, did Mr. Reed,
lied.
and this is just because of this is just why you did what you did Mr. Reed indicate to you that the ammunition at PDQ he thought was the same ammunition on the set of Rust?
Yes.
Did that turn out to be true?
No.
Even though, well, let me ask you this, the live ammunition that was collected from PDQ, did it just visibly look dissimilar to the live ammunition from Rust?
Yes.
Even though it looked dissimilar, did you send it to the FBI for testing anyway?
We did.
Did you ever discover any evidence throughout your entire investigation that Seth Kinney supplied live rounds to the set of Rust?
No.
Did you ever discover any evidence that Seth Kinney was present on the set of Rust until you met him at the prop truck?
No.
During your investigation, did you ever discover any evidence that Mr. Kinney modified or altered the gun that was provided to Mr. Baldwin?
No.
Did you ever discover any evidence that Ms. Gutierrez modified or altered the gun that was provided to Mr. Baldwin?
No.
Did you ever formally arrest Ms. Gutierrez?
No.
Does that have anything to do with whether or not she was ultimately convicted of a crime?
No.
Did you ever arrest Dave Halls?
No.
Do you know whether or not he was convicted of a crime at some point?
Yes, he was.
And the fact that you arrested him or didn't arrest him, did that have anything to do with it?
No.
Oh, it was Halls who took a plea. Sorry, I mixed him up with that other individual.
Does the, as a law enforcement officer, do you always arrest people who then later are criminally charged?
What?
Sorry, you mean like arrest them right away? And
Do
then...
they have to be arrested in order to be criminally charged?
No.
Why would you not arrest someone?
To develop the investigation, if we're still waiting or investigating facts, trying to find information, and to get potential suspects or witnesses, whoever is involved, to cooperate with law enforcement.
Who makes the final charging decision in a criminal case?
The district attorney's office, essentially.
The prosecutor does, right?
Yes.
You guys don't. The law enforcement officers don't, correct?
Right.
Now, in addition to searching the prop truck and searching PDQ, did you also ask to search cell phones?
I did.
And whose cell phones did you search or ask to be searched?
I requested searches of Alec Baldwin's cell phone, Hannah Gutierrez's, David Hall's, and Sarah Zachary.
Did you review all of those cell phone extractions?
I did.
And when you review the cell phone extraction, what do you get to see? Do you get to see text messages?
I do.
Do you get to see photographs?
Yes.
When you reviewed the photographs from Ms. Gutierrez's cell phone, did you notice anything that stood out to you?
I did.
What was that?
There was a photograph taken, I believe it was maybe end of November, that she was there was two bullets, 2 rounds, in I believe her hand, and it caused a little bit of concern. And then I think I actually had found a couple photos of it, and one of the bullets in that photograph was circled, kind of how you can edit a picture, and it said, I believe it was dud on top of it.
That bullet that was circled that said dud on it, was it a Starline brass casing?
It was.
Did it have a nickel primer?
Yes. Well, silver.
Silver, nickel.
Yeah.
Okay. Just in terms of the color.
Yes.
And in terms of the projectile shape, did it match the live rounds from the set of rest?
It did.
All right, counsel, we're going to stop for the day.
All right. Day's
Jury,
over.
I want you to, instead of 8:30, I want you to be here at 9:30.
Oh, we're starting an hour later
Downstairs. Please
tomorrow.
don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. Thank you.
Okay, that's it, everybody. We are done for the day. Ooh. Is everybody riveted? This is interesting testimony. It's just, long day, tiresome. It's a lot of work watching trials. It looks easy. It's much more difficult than you think it is. But I'm really happy to be able to bring our trial coverage to you all. And thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. This has been quite a day. Let's see if anything else happens before we end everything. I don't think anything interesting is going on. Now we do have another stream scheduled. Larry is going to be doing his recap sometime this evening, and I don't know if the stream is already set up for that yet, but if it's not, we will get it up and running. And I'm sure that, Larry will want a little downtime. He's going to walk back from the court, chill for a little bit, and then he will do his stream. So thank you all for joining me today. I sincerely appreciate it. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow should be interesting because, well, I think we can stop sharing this screen. Tomorrow, we are going to be starting at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time, and we are going to have Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. She's going to be testifying, and that is going to be really compelling. I'm really excited for that. I think that her testimony will be some of the most interesting in the trial, unless, of course, Alec himself decides to take the stand. So the jury's out on that. I really don't know whether he is planning to testify or not, but I do know that Hannah Gutierrez-Reed will be. And so we will see her tomorrow. We have an extra hour to sleep, get whatever done that we want in the morning. And then I will be firing up our morning stream tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. You will see me here at 9:30. I'll be doing the morning and the afternoon. And just like every day, I'm going to be doing the stream. Larry's going to be in court, and Larry will come back to you for his evening recap. So thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate you all being here. Please like the video if you haven't already. Please subscribe, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Remy out.